All right, so in this video, we're going to be kind of picking up where we left off in our previous video on this logo and talk about sequencing. This is really important. If we had 50 pieces to do, we would want to minimize the number of thread jumps. We would want to minimize the number of thread trims. Um, so that's kind of the last part of the process. So yes, we have all the objects pretty much the way we want them stitched. We will probably go in and add a little bit of underlay to the outer rings that we didn't do previously. But the main thing we're going to talk about here is sequencing. So let's take a look at the design and how it stitches out currently. So we pop into simulator here, and let's just pause this and I'll show you what's happening here. So you see that first little piece is stitching, and then it's stitching this top ring, and then it's stitching the next ring there. And then you can see it's jumping all the way from over here, all the way over here to the right, and then coming back around and stitching like so. And then it's going to stitch the fill stitch of our text, and then it's going to do each one of our layers, our letters. But, so once you get to this point, what you want to do is you want to turn on the frogs, and you will see an entire army of frogs here. And this obviously is not ideal of what we want to see for frogs, okay? And then if we click on the info tab here, you will see that we have 13 frogs. We have one color change, which we can't avoid that. And you can see we have no thread trims. So that's something that we really need to take a look at, is how we can control all of these jumps. And like I said, a lot of that has to do with the order in which things stitch. So you can see right now this piece is stitching first, and then we have a jump stitch over to here, and then this piece stitches, then this piece stitches, and then it's jumping clear from here all the way over to here, and then it's coming down, stitching this, and then it's stitching here, and then this jump stitch is jumping over to the letter L here. So we just have to kind of take it step by step by step. Probably the way I will stitch this is we're not going to start with this little tail. We're going to start with this piece. So we're going to come over, and then we're going to come down, and then we're going to jump to this piece here, but we're going to do with a running stitch. Come all the way over here, and then yes, we'll stitch this, and then we'll stitch this, and then we will probably have a thread trim here instead of a thread jump. We'll trim it there, and then we could start this process. And we have to take a look at all these thread jumps. We got all kinds of crazy thread jumps happening here as well, and this could in the individual letters. So this could be because of the sequencing of those letters. So it's just something we got to kind of break it down step by step and just take a look at what's really going on here. So let's see here. I'm just trying to think about how we might go about doing this. One thing I will point out too, as I'm just sitting here looking at this design, the amount of space between this and these two elements, and also these two elements, is very tiny. I know it looks huge on screen, but in reality, that is going to be next to nothing. So why that might be important for us is what we might do is we might start here, come all the way around, come all the way back around here, then run up, catch this little piece, then run back down, start over here, go ahead and stitch this out, then stitch out, thread trim. And then we could start with our letter L and our other letters. Okay, so we'll just kind of have to see how this all works out here. So let's take a look at that. So this is the piece that we're going to stitch first. So it needs to be at the bottom of the stack. This is the piece that is going to stitch second, so it needs to be in second place. And then I do think we're going to stitch this piece here, so that's already in third. And then this piece here, that's in fourth place, and this is in fifth place. Okay, so we have all of our pieces. Now, what we're going to take a look at is so this is our third piece right here, this little guy, and then this is our fourth piece. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select my third piece and my fourth piece, and there's a function in here that we can use. So we'll go into extensions and we'll choose InkStitch, and it's down here under tools and stroke, and it's a very common function that we're going to use, which is jump stitch to stroke. So let's go ahead and click on that. You'll get a dialog box, and we can set some parameters here. So I'm just going to go ahead and see it says convert jump stitches not shorter than 1 millimeter. Or and you can see convert jump stitches not longer than. You could specify a parameter there as well. And then it says do not connect after trim, stop, and so forth. But let's go ahead and hit apply, and you'll see what it'll do here. This will take a little bit of just kind of getting used to. Okay. So this is what's happened here. So what's happened here is this piece. So what it does is it connects these two pieces with a running stitch. Okay, and so essentially what it's saying is when this piece finishes, okay, when this piece finishes, then it's going to jump over to this piece where this piece starts. But in our case, I'm actually going to delete that for a moment, because I want to control where this piece begins stitching. So it's going to finish here. So it's going to finish 3, and then it's going to start on 4. But I want 4 to start at the top. Okay, so let's set that param first, where that is stitching from the top down. That's really how we need it to stitch. So you'll see it's currently stitching from the bottom up, which we don't want. And also, it looks like I had increased that density to 0.25. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. But what we're going to do is choose swap rails. We need that to stitch from the top down. Okay, so that's fine. So now we can go ahead and choose apply and quit. All right, so that takes care of that. So now that is stitching in the right direction. So now let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to take our third piece, hold our shift key down, select our second piece, third piece, and then we're going to come over here, shift click our fourth piece. So you see how those are all connected there? So now we're going to go back up to that InkStitch tool stroke and do that jump to stroke. And just go ahead and hit apply, and then we'll take a look at what it did for us. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that out. So this is what it did. So you can see here that it automatically has created this running stitch, and it's doing it from here because that's where this one ends and the next one begins. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and delete that again, because I'm just kind of showing you all the ins and outs. Okay, so let's take a look at the params here. Take a look at something. It's very nitpicky, but I think it's important for you to understand you've got options here. So when this satin stitch is finishing off here, you notice that cursor right there. That cursor is at the bottom of this satin. We actually want the cursor at the top of the satin. Okay, so what we could do is if we choose reverse first rail, now you'll have to cycle through these, but let's just try it. So let's try to reverse the first rail. Okay, now you see what's happened. Okay, when we choose reverse first rail, now it's stitching in the opposite direction we need it to. So what if we reverse the second rail? Now you'll see that it is stitching back in the order that we need, but let's see what happens. It's still stitching at the bottom. You see that there. So what if we choose reverse both rails? Now you can see we get a completely different result that we don't want. Okay, so what we need is we need this to stitch or to end at the bottom. So we need this cursor to end up here. So how can we make it do it? Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and reverse the rails. Okay, so that is going to make it stitch in the opposite direction. But now let's reverse. So we swap the rails. But now what happens if we reverse the first rail? You can see it's going to stitch back to right to left. But notice now it ends up top. And I'll just tell you from experience, there is no direct rhyme or reason. We just have to cycle through the options. Okay, so in one case, it will work as we expect it to just by reversing one rail, and then in the next case, it won't, as you clearly just saw. So, so at any rate, one of those combinations will get this cursor up here. And the reason we want the cursor up here is because our next little bit's right there. So we don't want to run from the bottom up. We want from the nearest connecting point. So that we'll choose apply and quit. So now when we select this, you'll see this here momentarily. So we're going to select all three of those pieces. Okay. And then we will go in and choose that option once again. Jump to stitch to stroke. Choose apply. And you'll see we'll get our jump stitches. Okay. But you'll see here it's coming from where it ended, and it's coming to the top because that's where the next piece begins. So that's super helpful to us. So let's change the thickness. I usually use 0.2 for my thickness on my jump stitches. I wish there was a parameter where we could set that permanently, but it seems to always set it at 1 millimeter. But at any rate, so now we could just double click on this newly created path, and we can just kind of adjust it here. So it's going to finish, it's going to run up to the top, satin stitch down, and then it's going to finish right there. And then this, right, this path, we'll just create some nodes. We're going to make this path run all the way up here. Like so. Now you don't have to add nodes. You can just go like this and give it a curve. Okay, that's fine. Same thing here. We can give it a curve. So you don't have to, click, 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 click. We can though. We can add nodes and then use the transformation handles. But you see, it's going to connect up top there. Okay, so if we don't want to add nodes there, we just want a curve there, we certainly can do that too. Okay, the satin stitches are going to cover that up anyhow. All right, so it's going to come down here, come down, it's going to come all the way up here, and then it's going to stitch, and then it's going to come down and stitch that one. Now on this piece here, we do want this piece to trim. Okay, so right now this piece here is going to jump to whatever the next piece is in the stack order. So this piece here, we may want to add a trim command. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to let it go, and I just want to see exactly what's going to happen next. Okay, so the next thing is our lettering here. So you can see here that piece is going to stitch first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So all of those are currently set in the correct order. So that's good. But what we don't really know is exactly where the jump between each letter is going to be. Okay, we don't necessarily want a thread trim at every single letter, but we do want to see exactly how this stitches out. So let's go ahead and run a simulator here, and we'll look at things a bit more closely. Now this is a process that you're going to have to do for all of your designs. So you can see here we're starting right at the top of that. And notice, let's back up a little bit. So this is important too. We can back up and go forward, plus and minus key on your keyboard. So you can see that top piece, it is ending. Let's see, let's back up one. It is ending right there on the inside, and the next one is beginning. Okay, so if we turn on our frogs, you don't see any jump stitches where it currently is. So we're going to keep moving forward. Right, so we're scrubbing forward, and now it's going to finish this piece up. We're just hitting the plus key on our keyboard. It's finishing that satin. And there you go. It starts our running stitch. Our running stitch is starting right where the satin ended. So it's going to go up to the tip of our satin up there. And then it's going to go ahead and run our satin there. And then there goes our running stitch over to the top of our other satin. And you see how that satin is, in fact, covering that up. So let's fast forward a little bit, because we have a frog here, and I'm not sure why we have a frog. So let's see what's happening here. Now there we go. So you see what's happening there. It's jumping from the inside and then starting the next one. So remember before where we were switch rails and so forth, we need this satin. We need this satin to end on the outside, and it's ending on the inside. So let's just close that out a moment, and let's take a look at this in params, and let's fix it. Easy enough to do. I use my keyboard shortcut that I have set to open up params. So you can see it's coming around the bend here. And you can see that cursor is in fact ending on the inside, so we need it to end on the outside. So first things first, let's go ahead and reverse the first rail. That is going to start stitching in the opposite direction. So let's just do this. Let's go ahead and swap our rails and then reverse the first rail. And that should get us ending on the outside. And you can see there, the cursor now ends on the outside. So we'll go ahead and choose apply and quit. So now, when we do our simulation, go ahead and turn on our frogs. We have a frog right there that we're not supposed to have. Why is that froggy there? Oh, I know why. Because we set our jump stitch to, you see that? It's jumping right there. And the reason for that is when we had previously set that, we set it to the top. Now we need to set it to the inside. So that's my bad. So this run stitch, it's jumping right there. So this run stitch here needs to end down here instead. Okay, so now you won't see a thread jump there. Okay, so let's go back in and turn on our frogs, and you can see now our first frog is happening right here, and that's because it is jumping from this piece to this piece, which is our L here. Okay, so we're going to fix that because we're going to come in and we're going to add a thread trim there. Okay, and I don't know. I think what we're going to do, I think this is what we're going to wind up doing. So we're going to add a thread trim here, and then we're going to start it up here, and we're going to finish it over here. Because as we come forward, what we're going to do is we're going to jump from here to there, right there, and then we're going to stitch this kind of backwards. So I think that's what we're going to wind up doing. We're going to stitch this backwards to eliminate all of these frogs here. We don't want to have all those frogs. Okay, and then we have two frogs that we need to deal with in our text. You can see we have a thread jump from our finish of our R to the beginning of our F there. And I want to see if we can't avoid that, which we should be able to avoid that. So I am going to fix that one. And then this next one, we have a jump from our words in between words, and we can't eliminate that. Okay. So, but this one, I'm pretty confident between the R and the F, I'm pretty confident we can avoid that one. So, with that said, let's go ahead and do these things. So right here, we're going to add a thread trim. So we're going to come up to Extensions, InkStitch. We're going to attach our commands. And what we're going to do here, we are going to trim thread after sewing this object. Okay, so there you go. So that will take care of that. Now, you can't see it, it's hidden, but you see right here, this is what was just created. So we're just going to hide the visibility. I like doing that just because I feel like it's easier to see. So we'll just go ahead and hide that to keep our design clean. It'll still go in effect. We just won't see it visually on screen here. So then what we need to do is we need to reorganize. So remember, we're going to stitch this first, and then we're going to stitch these backwards. So this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, and then this one. And then we'll come up here to Extensions, InkStitch, and Edit, and we're going to restack. Okay, so we got to restack the order. So now those will stitch in the order, in that new order now. So you'll see here, the big L is going to stitch, and then M, U, R, D, N, and A. Okay? So that's the way it's going to stitch. But now we need start and end commands probably across all of these. So we'll go ahead and just select everything. So I'm just holding down my Alt key here, sliding through all of this stuff. Okay, when you do that, you get that little red line. Anything that's touching that red line will get selected. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and add commands to everything. So we're going to come in back into InkStitch. We're going to commands, attach commands to the selected objects, and we need the start and end positions on everything. Okay, and we'll go ahead and choose apply. Okay, and you're going to see a whole bunch of start and end positions here. So let's just start with this guy here. Okay, and sometimes it can be a little overwhelming because we have all these different icons. So we have a stop, what I consider the stop. Okay, and so we're going to move. We'll see which one this is attached to. Okay, that looks like it's attached to the letter D. That one's obviously attached to the R. What's this one attached to? That looks like it's attached to the letter D. I don't know what's going on there. What's this one attached to? This little guy back here, what's he attached to? That looks like it's attached to the letter D. What's this one attached to? That one looks like maybe it's the letter N. Okay, that one's the letter A. I've not found one, I think, for our letter L yet. Okay, so we'll start here what we do know. So that's M, And we want that to stop there. And this, we're going to say this is for our U. And we're going to start our U right there. So we're going to end here, start there. And then this guy, we are going to choose to end right down here, because we want that connection to happen right there. So for our R, we're going to move it down right where we need it. Something about like so. And then yes, where are we gonna end R? We're gonna end R right there. So we'll make that connection right there. So for D, we'll bring over right there. And then the end of D, we'll put right there. And now, like I said, now you can kind of see things are gonna get a little messy here. N, we're gonna have N come right down here. And what is this one attached to? I'm not sure what that's attached to be honest. I'm not sure. We've got another one here. It's almost like there's another object there that I can't even see. Is that possible? I'll tell you what, I can't say for certain what that goes to. So let's just delete that, because I can't say what that goes to. Okay. So okay, that's to the letter R. That's the end of D. So this will be the beginning of N. And then, of course, this is the end of N. And then our A is going to come down here. And then it doesn't really matter where A ends, per se. So we'll just say it ends there. All right. So that takes care of all of our letters, except we don't have, I don't believe we have start and end on this. So we'll come back in here. We'll go back into commands, and let's go ahead and attach commands. We'll do start and end there. And we'll just take a close look at, okay, I see the end is right here. So we can move that over here. Sometimes we have to zoom in to get it exactly where we want it. So there is our end. So it's going to make that little jump because the start of M, I think it's going to be right there. So M is going to start there. And then that's where that little jump is going to happen. So now I need to find where is that icon? So let's see, starting position. Where is the starting position? Says it, that's it? Okay, well that's interesting. It was buried there. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So that takes care of that. Now, if we want to hide all of those markers, we could just come in here and under extensions, InkStitch, back into commands and view, and see we can choose right here to delete our display mode, display hide commands. So we could go ahead and choose that, and it will just toggle the visibility of all of our commands. And it'll give us a nice clean look again. Not sure what it did there. I think I manually turned off some commands, so let's just go back and run it again. And this time it should turn everything off. There you go. All right. So all those commands still exist, but you can see here they are all now hidden. So now let's go back into simulator mode and let's take a look at how this is going to stitch out. All right, let's back up a little bit here. Let's take a look. First things first, let's go ahead and look at the info screen. You can see now we have 3 jumps. Is that right? Let me put on my spectacles. 5 jumps. Okay, we have 5 jumps. You can see we do have 1 thread trim. So let's go ahead and turn on our frogs, and let's kind of fast forward here. Let's get rid of this screen. Where is my first jump? Let's see here. Let's go ahead, just fast forward here and see what's happening here. Technically, that's not a jump. That is a thread trim. That's what it's showing us there. If I turn on my thread trims, there you go. So you can see that that is a thread trim right there. Okay. So there you go. There's that. And then this is our letter L. So let's fast forward through that. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and, so you see where that connection happened there with our letter M. And you see that connection there. Let me just back that up just so we could see that a little bit better. So right there. Let's go ahead and back it up. So there's our running stitch. But you see how that jumps over? And it's going to go ahead and do our underlay for our U. And our U is ending right there. So what is happening here, just so we can get an understanding of what's happening here. So right here, when it finishes the U, this space from there to the next letter is big enough for it to be classified as a jump. So there must be just enough distance there to classify as a jump, and that's fine. We're completely okay with that. So now we go ahead and fast forward, and obviously there is a color change here, but you can see where all those connections are happening between our letters. It's just going to run straight through that. Okay, so that's all looks just fine. The kind of our last step is this one right here, and that's being nitpicky, I know, but this is our next step here. Can we eliminate this jump between the R and the F? And we have this connection happen down here. Well, that's the last thing we need to look at. This one is happening between the words. So we know that that space is great. So we're going to have a thread trim there. But let's just see if we could fix this one. So between the R and the F is our problem right here. So between the R and the F is our issue. So let's look at that. That is going to be right here under InkStitch lettering. Okay. And you can see what it kind of does for us. Is PERF. So there we go. There is, let's see here. So that last object here on the R is a satin stitch. Okay. And then the first object on the F then, let's see here. Or no, that's the R. We need the first object of the F. You can see is this up here. And that's okay. That is fine for that running stitch. I see why it is doing that. So so what's happening here is it's finishing down here. So let's just kind of revisit this so we really understand this. So it's finishing the R, and then there's a thread jump from there to there. Okay? And so what it's doing, it's coming out to the end of our F, and it's stitching in. And then when this satin finishes, it's popping down here, and then it's stitching this. I assume it's stitching this all the way up to here. But let's see that. So it's stitching that, then it's stitching that, then it's stitching the running stitch just like I said, then it is stitching that, and it's stitching that, and then where it begins, it's connecting probably right here. The jump is happening right there. Okay? So that's probably how it's happening. But let's fix this. So I think what we could do here is we could just double click on this path. Now you'll have to kind of bear with me so you have a clear understanding of how all this is going to work. So what we're going to do, instead of connecting up here, we want to connect down here. Okay? And then it's going to run up. It's going to run up. So it's going to connect here. It's going to run up. Right? And then it's going to come over to the front. And then it's going to connect there. Okay? And then it's going to connect to that other running stitch and then stitch up from the bottom and over. Okay? So just that slight little change. Not a big deal. So let's go in, and that's being super nitpicky, folks. I know. But I just feel like it's worth it. So if we can eliminate jump stitches, then that's what we should do. Okay? So let's pause this. Let's fast forward to the issue. So first of all, let's throw on our frogs. So you can see here, this first one is really just a thread trim. So that's kind of, we'll just kind of ignore that. And then the next one that's happening is just because of that distance is too great to not be a jump stitch. And then we have a frog here, and that's just indicating the color change. And then you can see we got rid of this frog right here between this and this. So let's just back that up. So you can see here it's finishing the R, right? And then it's doing that run stitch up and over. Then it's doing our satin. Then it's going to do our vertical of our F. Then come across. And you can see it's jumping right to our O, right where I said. Okay? That's it. Okay? So now when we're looking at this, you can see we have a single thread trim. And really we don't have all these jump stitches. Because we just have, this is a jump stitch right here. And then we have one jump stitch in between the two words. And that's it for jump stitches. So that is as pristine of a design as we can get and have it run all the way straight through. Okay? So this is what the other videos won't show you. There's a little bit more to it once you get your design complete. But that's how you can create a really production-friendly design with the smallest amount of thread jumps and the smallest amount of thread trims. So hopefully that helps you out in controlling those a little bit. Thanks for watching.